What's up, traders? Chris Capri here, SecondSkiesForex.com. So I got an email from someone named Katie. I thought it was a great email because she asks kind of a question that probably the majority of you that are listening right now. I'm going to say that most likely you're in the situation where you have a full time job or you have something which occupies you in a full time way, like raising kids or something, and you're very busy and you want to trade, you have an interest in trading, and you feel like it's something that you could do, but you have certain limitations in your life in terms of work, in terms of commitments and things. And that only means that you only have probably between 1 and a few hours a day. So, 1 to 2 hours a day is maybe if you're lucky 4, but we're talking only a few hours a day to really dedicate towards trading. And so the question in here is a key one. Is this, she says, I'd appreciate an honest opinion on whether is it possible to trade 1 to 2 hours a day, follow a professional trader with the right mindset, earn a profitable income. So that's our question. So this is a key question because I'm willing to bet right now, all the people that are listening to this right now, 7, 8 of 10 of you are probably in this situation. So this is one of the most important questions for somebody who is really wanting to make a go at this. Feels like, yeah, I do want to take this on. I do want to overcome this obstacle. I do want to figure out a way to make this work for me. And so, for those people, you want to do this, but you only have a few hours. How do you make that work? Can you make it work? Is it even realistic? And so that's what I'm going to talk about in today's lesson. So, with that being said, let's just briefly go through the email. She says, "Hi Chris, hope you're enjoying your day. I googled Forex and philanthropist and was directed to you, which is awesome. I'm glad that we came up on that because that's something we focus very heavily on." She says, "I'm a single mother of two gorgeous boys with a background in financial management. Recently trained life coach and NLP practitioner. I do meditation. I'm a yoga fan." And I have a desire to learn about Forex, donate the proceeds to amazing causes, and potentially inspire and help other moms do the same. He wants to create an army of women trading from home who are empowered to kind of, hey, maybe they are home, but maybe they can, make an opportunity. And I think that's the right mindset. I think it's the right mindset. I'm not saying that they should all become traders. What I am saying is the mindset of saying, okay, I'm at home, so how can I take advantage of this opportunity? What can I use to make this time more effective? It's a solution focused mindset, not a problem focused mindset. They recognize the problem and they focus on the solution. So that I think is great. Okay, now to the final question. Can you listening to this video right now, who has a, you know, by default probably have some sort of busy life. You have a job, you have kids, family, all these things, and you only have a few hours a day to trade. Can you make this work? Is the real question. Can you make money trading? That is what we're getting at. So here is my response to that. And it's probably, from a marketing perspective, it's probably not the best thing to say, but I think it's the right thing to say. And I think it's the thing that needs to be said so that we can all move past this and get past this kind of hurdle. Instead of us as mentors and educators focusing on exactly how much you can make or things like that, we need to focus on what it takes to get you there. It's easy to flash things saying, can you, I've made this much money, I made this much money, it's so easy, you can do it too. But that's not the reality. So my answer to this is trading a few hours a day, can you make trading work? My answer is yes, but it's going to be much harder than you think it is. And what do I mean by that? So first of all, if you were to try and go and learn any new skill, let's say you want to do archery or something like that. I took archery. I studied competitive archery for 2 years in Argentina, and I learned a lot about my training methods because I was applying some of these training methods that I did to trading and meditation and yoga towards archery. So I got a really interesting experience of this. I entered 3 competitions in those 2 years, and I was going about 4 or 5 days a week. In my first competition, I took fourth place. In my second competition, I took third place. In my third competition, I took first. I feel like I did pretty good inside that 2 years, and I learned a lot about it. But the thing about it is this: I was only putting in as much time as you're kind of talking about here, this 1 to 2 hours a day. So I would go to practices 4 or 5 days a week. There were practices only 6 days a week. I went 4 to 5, and practice was usually about 2 hours. But the whole ordeal for me was about 3 hours plus because of travel time. I actually had to take a fair amount of travel just to get to these classes. And so I was probably putting in 3 hours a day, 4 or 5 days a week, so between 12 and 15 hours a week on this. And applying and working at it with a certain focus and a certain intention, plus also doing the mindset stuff that I learned through meditation, that I learned through competitive athletics, that I learned through trading, that I learned through all these things in my life. I applied it into archery, and I feel like that was the reason why I was able to do pretty good inside that 2 years and do that what I did in competitions. And I advanced very fast inside the school. I was shooting with the advanced group inside 6 months. Actually less than 6 months. Um, and even then there were certain things that I was adopting in terms of like, okay, we're going to add this to your functionality. We're going to add this to your bow. We're going to do this and we're going to adjust it like this. Like I kept progressing through stages at a pretty fast pace. But there was this one guy. His name was Mati. And Mati was there at every practice, and he wasn't just there at. So I went 5 days a week, but there were many days that there were practices in the morning and the evenings. Almost every single week, Mati was at every single one of those practices, morning and evening. On top of it, he was there early at practice. On top of it, he was there later after practice. This was a guy who was getting his medical degree and training this intensely in archery. And he was the best shooter in our school. And don't get me wrong, there may have been certain times where I might have been able to slowly compete with him or partially compete with him or maybe beat him in like a couple rounds. But there was no way at the end of the day that with my skill level that I'd gotten from the time that I had put into it was equal to his skill level. He was training to be elite. He was training to succeed. I was taking archery actually more for the mindset training than anything else. I was actually doing it specifically for a mindset training. And so I wasn't trying to be a competitive archer. And I had no illusions about doing that, being around 40 years of age. That wasn't my focus. And even if I did have the focus to be a competitive archer, I would have to change so much of what I was doing. There's a gap, there's a gulf between someone who's training to just perform decently and someone who's training to be elite. There is a difference. Those two training regimes and programs are not the same. There is some overlap, but the person who's trained to be elite is training differently and doing more of what you're already doing in just training to perform. If you are going to only have about 2 hours a day to trade, I would say that's not the level that's going to be put in to become a professional. Could it be something proficient at? For sure. Was I proficient in archery when I was done with that? For sure. No doubt about it. You could tell that when I walked up to the line and started to shoot, whether I was in the school or I was in California recently shooting out in the forest there, and they have a little archery range there. And you could tell when I walked up that I had training. It was obvious. But it doesn't make a difference. I'm not a professional. There is a gulf between me and Monty. And so I want to say yes to your question. You can do that. I have students doing that now. And I have more students that are like super close to doing that. I just had somebody turn in um, his performance and he showed me all the numbers and all the trades and I got to see everything about it. And he made money. And this was his first go at it. That's a real thing. But can't ever think that you're going to just like have the same life as a professional trader would. I was reading Tom Brady's new book, and there was a couple things that really stuck out inside that book for me. And I, as a competitor and as an athlete, and the mindset he's had around competition, I really appreciate what he's done. He's probably one of the best quarterbacks of our time. Whatever you think about him with all the other things around him, it doesn't really matter. He has a wisdom around competition. And so I pay attention to that. And one of his things he says is always treat practice like a game. When he was at Michigan, when he started, he wasn't the starting quarterback. His coaches only gave him 3 reps at practices. That's 3 hikes. That's it. 3 reps. Boom. Done. That's it. And he was feeling like he wasn't going to get put onto the team. And he was talking to somebody who was there, the sports psychologist. And he said, well, if you're only going to get 3 reps, you better do those 3 reps really well. And that totally was a pivot point for Tom Brady. It changed his mindset. He recognized the wisdom in that and he said, yeah, that's the right thing to do. And that's what I'm going to do. And so then when he went into practice, he treated the 3 reps like it was the Super Bowl. And then he started to get more reps and more reps. And pretty soon he got all the reps. And then he became the starting quarterback for Michigan. But even then, he didn't get into the pros and like was just a start off the bat. He was on the bench, you know. So this is someone who really understood um, the wisdom of training. I also don't want to create any illusions that you are going to, for those only, if you only have 2 hours a day to trade, that every single day, that's what you're going to be doing every single day. That's not how it works, because there are other things that you're going to have to do to be a professional that come with trading that don't have to do with actually pushing the button to buy and sell that day. There's mental preparation before trading. There's your analysis and going through the numbers of your trades after. This is reviewing your trades. It's pattern recognition. It's working on skills. There isn't a single profession on the planet or skill that doesn't require you to take time out for training. Even the best of the best are still training. Tom Brady practices 4 hours every single day. He's not playing games 4 hours every single day. He's practicing 4 hours every single day. And what is he doing? He's still doing some of the same exercises he's been doing for 20 years. That's what it is to train to be a professional. So that 2 hours that you have, you can't just think like, from the moment that clock ticks to 1 second all the way up to the 2 hours that you are trading every single one of those moments. No, you're going to need time out. A lot of the other things that go around trading. And so you have to understand that. So you have to understand that that's what trading's going to be like for you. That's what it's going to be like in terms of effort. Yes. The answer to your question is yes. You can make that work and you can get an income from this. But it's probably going to be harder than you think it is. So that's my non-marketing response, but I think that's the answer you need to hear. Once you can recognize that and see what I'm saying here and start to kind of blow your illusions about trading and what you think it's going to be, and it never is. There's no football player who's playing pro today who had fully envisioned what it would be like to be a pro football player. It's always going to be outside of your mindset. There's going to be things you're not going to be trained for or ready for per se, or is going to be the same. It's not the same process all the way through. That's the whole point. The whole point of training is to take you not from where you are now, but to mold you into something else that you can be, that's within your reach, that's your potential, that's available to you. That's the whole purpose of training. If you didn't need training, you wouldn't be asking this question and you would just be doing it right now. You can always tell when somebody doesn't need training to play a chord on a guitar. They just, they pick up like any guitar and they're ready to go. They're able to do it. That's the thing. So, and even then, training never ends. That's one thing that Tom says. He's like, look, professional sports. He said, it doesn't make a difference. He said the only difference between pros and the level is that it's stronger, it's harder, it's faster. There's more competition. That's super important. And this is, I'd probably say, another really good quote from him. He says, sustained peak performance isn't about changing one or two habits in your life. It is your life. It requires commitment. It requires discipline. It requires openness. And maybe you're not going for that professional level trader. Maybe you're not trying to be this high level sustained peak performer. It doesn't make a difference. This will require commitment for those moments in time that you are trading to be really present, to be really working on what you're doing, to be really committed and really focused. It's going to require that. It's going to require discipline. Get from that is far better. From doing those things, what you get from that personally and what you get from that financially, think of all the times in your life that you really made money. You were probably more disciplined. You were probably really focused in that moment. Probably, yeah, there's going to be fluke circumstances, but if you look at the majority of times when you made good money in your life, or in trading, you were really focused. You were really present. You were really committed to what you're doing. You were disciplined. Think of the things that the precursors and the variables that were present to when you've been successful before, and try and repeat that way of being, that feeling, that way of living your life, and see what happens. I'm willing to bet you're going to see a difference. That's my answer to you, Katie, and that's my answer to all you traders out there as well. Every one of you that has a job, that's going to school, that's working hard, that has a family and kids and these commitments and things. I really applaud you guys. That's not easy. I know because I did it myself. I used to go to work. I would work the day and then I'd be trading. I was in California, so I was trading London time. I would be up till 1:30 in the morning, and then I would have to get up at 5:30 in the morning because guess what? That's what I had to do to start my life, to do all the things I do for my normal life. That wasn't easy. I understand what you're going through. I understand it was really hard, sleeping very little and getting up as early as I was and staying up as late as I was and working as hard as I was just so I could trade. But what I got from that chapter is still, that book is still being written. So that's my answer to you, Katie. You can do it. It's just going to be harder than you think it is. And that's okay. The challenging things that we experience in life often make us stronger. So, at least that's been my experience, and I think probably many of you would say the same. So, with that being said, what's your thoughts on this video? What are your thoughts on the main subjects that we talked about? Do you agree with it? Leave a comment and definitely share it with others as well. And other than that, I look forward to your comments and questions on this. Check us out at secondskiesforex.com if you like what we did, you're interested in our mindset course or our advanced price action course. We have some amazing training that has allowed people who only have a few hours a day to make money. That's happening. We continue to produce them. We continue to show with members again and again, and we hope that you want to be that next person, because if you really want to be that person, you're committed to this, then that's the kind of person we want to work with. We only want to work with people who are really interested in this and committed and serious about this. And I'm not saying you have to dedicate your whole life to it, but for whatever time you do have, you're on it and you're working hard at this. So that's it. I will look forward to your comments and questions. Make sure to check us out at secondskiesforex.com, and I'll see you in the next video.